What's good? Welcome to Numbers Never Lie. I'm the above-average Michael Smith, alongside, as always, the great and wonderful, all-powerful Jemele Hill. Coming up, should Carmelo stay or go? Should D-Wade embrace coming off the bench? And should the Pro Bowl just go away for good altogether?
But our number one topic is Peyton Manning perhaps leaving on a high note. The number in the news for Peyton Manning is 4. Manning will be the 4th quarterback to start a Super Bowl the same season he led in passing yards and passing touchdowns. Should he win the Super Bowl against Seattle, it might be the best season a QB has ever had. It would be the perfect ending to a stellar career. Ain't that right, Peyton?
Everybody enjoys the games. Everybody's going to be excited to play in a Super Bowl, but I think when you still enjoy the preparation and the work part of it, I think you probably still ought to be doing that. And I think as soon as I stop enjoying it, if I can't produce, if I can't help a team, that's when I'll stop playing. If that's next year, maybe it is, but I certainly want to continue to keep playing.
Mike, should Peyton consider retirement if he wins a second Super Bowl?
Keyword being consider, right?
Keyword.
Yes, he should strongly consider retiring if he wins a second Super Bowl. Peyton is nothing if not a student of history. And what more historic and storybook ending would there be than to walk away after you just said what could be the greatest season any quarterback has ever had? I mean, what more would he have to prove? I understand he still loves the game and can still play it at a high level. But there's also something mysterious or legendary, if you will, about riding off into the sunset when you're still at the top of your game, a la Jim Brown. Elway probably could still play, but he left. Jerome Bettis was probably at the end, but he left on a great note. Michael Strahan, Ray Lewis last year, varying degrees of excellence toward the end of their careers. But there's something about going out on top and just dropping the mic if you Peyton Manning. I kind of like that. So I would consider it if I were him.
It would be the storybook ending, and we often know that in more cases than not, athletes, they go out on their own terms, and it's usually not the terms that they create. But if I'm Peyton Manning, I would want to see what more could I do? What else could I do? What other records could I break? Especially if I win this Super Bowl, I'd be trying to, he's already owns a significant number of records in NFL history. I'd be trying to own more of them.
Yeah.
And I don't think he crossed that threshold, kind of like Brett Favre did, where the ending of Favre was so bad and so downhill, it made us question everything that we saw before that. I don't think he'll not question it, but not question his ability as a quarterback, but it ended so disastrously that I think it altered people's perception of him a little bit.
Not mine, but okay, I feel you.
To a lot of people. Yep. But I think with Peyton Manning, there isn't that risk there. I think even, let's say next season he comes back and they don't have a good year for some reason, even though this team looks poised to compete for years, I think he'd still be okay.
No, he'd be better than okay. He may come back and win a 6th MVP next year.
He could.
And the weapons are there. It's a young offense. There's a lot of reasons to come back, especially if he still loves the game. But there's just something poetic about it. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm just a sucker for great stories. There's something poetic about him walking away, regardless of whether he owns all the records, and ending the conversation now. As we often like to say, you're only as funky as your last cut. We might not have ever seen a funkier cut than every single season record plus the Super Bowl to cap it off.
One last thing I'll say before we get to the number is that I also think for him, he probably wouldn't ever admit this publicly, but you wonder if even he feels like those years where he had those teams that went against the Patriots, now that the Patriots probably in his mind aren't such an obstacle like they were before, maybe he's thinking, I should have got the most then. Why not try to get the most now?
Sure, and the bottom line is if you still love it,
yeah, and you still love the prepreparation. That's really the key part.
You ask consider. I ain't trying to put him out the pasture.
I know.
You ask consider, and if I were him, I'm sure he's considered it. I'm sure he's thought about it.
He's had to at least.
Exactly.
All right. Let's see what the number that matters says. You think he should consider it. I don't think that he should. Here's what the numbers say. Should Peyton consider retirement if he wins a second Super Bowl? The numbers say no, because he's playing at too high of a level.
Fair.
The most touchdown passes by a player in their final season is 27 by Roger Staubach in 1979. Peyton more than doubled that number this season. Doesn't look like he'll be slowing down either.
Another name we forgot on our top 5 list. Anyway, the number in the news for Carmelo Anthony is 97. His 97 points over the past 2 games are tied for the 3rd most in back-to-back games in Knicks history, behind 2 streaks by Bernard King. Melo, of course, scored a team record 62 against the Bobcats Friday night. The big topic in the Big Apple, of course, remains whether Melo will have a new team next year. Here's one potential teammate.
I mean, everybody wants to play in Los Angeles. I mean, New York's a beautiful place. I'm gonna get me wrong, but it's colder out here. You know, it's palm trees and beaches. You know, obviously a little bit more appealing. But no, all jokes aside, I think that players, when that time comes, will have to make the best decision for them and their families. You know, and I try not to, think about it too much. If he wants to call me for advice later as a friend, I'll be more than happy to give it to him.
I love philosophical Kobe. Now, that was Kobe. Meanwhile, Magic Johnson tweeted, "My advice to Carmelo is to stay in New York and build a championship team at home." Should Melo take Magic's advice and stay in New York?
No, he should not take his advice. Now, maybe it's not Los Angeles. Maybe that's not the destination. We've heard some reports over the weekend that Chicago is a place that Melo is interested in, which would make a lot of sense when you look at some of their pieces, even though Derrick Rose, his injury history is a bit of a risk. But if he stays in New York, I'm going to just say it. His career will be meaningless if he stays in New York City. He will not win a championship, and I think the last 10 to 15 years, what the Knicks have done, or not done for that matter, have more than proven my point. I mean, 7 coaches in the last decade. They've won 1 playoff series in 13 years. What about James Dolan would possibly make you believe that you can win there? Look, I understand it's a lot of money on the table because they can offer him $130 million.
Yeah.
If he takes that money, Melo he'll just be a jag, just another guy, a guy that scored a lot of points and didn't win anything.
Tell us how you really feel.
I'm just saying.
I think he should take Magic's advice. First of all, this is what he wanted. He wanted to go to New York. So you want the Big Apple, and after a few bites, you're going to throw it away? I mean, listen, I just finished.
You know as well as I do, they're not winning anything in New York.
Okay, but how much more trustworthy, if you will, is management in Chicago? They seem more concerned about the bottom line, the profits, than they are necessarily about putting the bet. Ask Reggie Rose, ask Derrick Rose's brother about the team that they've been assembling in Chicago.
Well, I would assume if they got Melo, that would mean they were being serious.
That would be an upgrade, of course. But point is, there are no guarantees anywhere. Meanwhile, if he were to devote himself to an ideal, he could become more than more than a man in Gotham. He would be legend, Mr. Wayne. So don't tell me his career will be meaningless.
Okay.
I mean, if he could possibly deliver a title, they'll have more cap flexibility in 2015. Look, I mean, his wish is James Dolan's command. He's the puppet master for Dolan. I mean,
how's that worked out?
My point is he going to have it much better anywhere else?
Yes.
Here's the other thing. Let me go to L.A. We talked about Chicago. Let me go to L.A. Part of me thinks both Magic and Kobe are subtly dropping hints at Carmelo. And saying, you know what? You're not exactly the kind of guy we have in mind to come and play with Kobe. Because, I mean, seriously, do you think Kobe and Carmelo can truly coexist on an NBA team? I know people out there say, they play on the Olympic team, an NBA team. They both need the ball. I don't think that that's the way Kobe wants to go with the next couple of years. So I'm looking at it and I'm saying, you wanted New York. It's a little too soon to bail. 2015 could be a big year in Gotham.
Okay, first of all, that's the biggest problem.
What did you put in my cup? What am I thinking? I don't
know what you're thinking.
The virtues of the Knicks.
I mean, let me smell that cup. You sure it's just water in there? Look, that's the problem with the Knicks. It's always about another year. They always sell the dream. They think they're going to get Kevin Love.
Concrete jungles where dreams are made of.
And it's where dreams go to die. Let them tell it. They were this close to getting LeBron. They were this close to getting Chris Paul. Now in 2015, it's supposed to be about Kevin Love. And oh, by the way, the Knicks aren't the only team that want him. Okay? You know what? Maybe there is something to what you said about the Lakers.
Didn't you see the seed at MSG? I'm sorry.
Look, it's got to come with a championship.
What were you saying? There's something else about the Lakers.
What you brought up was actually a pretty good point. It reminds me of a breakup speech I've had to give a time or two, where you list off all the reasons why they shouldn't be with you. It's like a mind game. Like, see, I'm sloppy.
Right.
My lasagna's not that good.
It's not you, it's me. Actually.
Right, exactly. Yeah, right. Like, I'm the one with all the problems.
Right.
I got issues.
This is Magic's nice way of saying, you know what, let's go ahead and stay there. We're good.
Exactly.
All right, let's get to the number. Man, I just
can't believe you buying that.
I'm not just saying it to say it. I believe it. I'm just saying. They moved heaven and earth to get him. This is what he wants. Now he's going to be a hired gun? It's one thing to be a gunner. Don't be a hired gun and start bouncing from team to team. That's what Kobe told Dwight, right? Plant your roots and grow.
Different roots.
He went back to this is home, right?
Yeah.
Should Carmelo stay in New York? The numbers say no because the Knicks are headed in the wrong direction. I tried, New York. I tried. They're on pace for the second largest win percentage drop in franchise history. The last time it fell this much, they missed the playoffs for 3 straight seasons. But if he could, he could be a symbol. Coming up, tell us what you think. Is Carmelo Anthony one of the top 5 ballers in the NBA? Is he one of the top 5 players? Respond to @ESPN_numbers. Include that hashtag top 5 ballers. And we'll answer that question ourselves later in the show. That's right, another list for you to hate.
All right, and speaking of top 5 players, or used to be, the number in the news for D. Wade is 9. Yesterday against the Spurs marked the 9th time Dwyane Wade came off the bench. Miami won 113-101 and at one point led by 29, but let's put that aside. Wade's move to the bench was the bigger story than the Heat beating down a team they last saw in Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Wade, he's already missed 13 games this season. He had 8 points in 24 minutes. He said he asked to come off the bench because he didn't want to mess up team chemistry. Long term, though, will D. Wade coming off the bench work for
I believe it will. Whether it's a will, there's a way, and clearly he wants to.
A will, there's a Wade. I know.
I thought I was the corny one on this.
You're rubbing off on me. You're rubbing off on me.
No, but I believe him when he said I don't have an ego about this, because right now it's all about a championship for him, and he realizes, as LeBron alluded to the other day, that the constant will he or won't he is wearing on the starting lineup. How many people like me, idiot, right, was saying at the very beginning, how are LeBron and Wade going to coexist when they first got together in 2010, right? Even last year during the playoffs, there were signs that LeBron was thriving when Wade was off the floor. So you look at what they're doing right now in his absence. Bosh is doing work at the 4 spot. Greg Oden, okay?
No,
Greg Oden,
I know where you're going.
Okay, cool. I just want to make sure. I know it's crazy to put your stock in Greg Oden, but Greg Oden and Chris Anderson at the 5, they seem to be playing more of a traditional lineup, maybe in preparation for Indiana. So Wade giving them punch off the bench, yes, it can work, and it can work with great results. Look at Manu Ginobili, what he did in San Antonio.
It can work. Maybe in the past, I would feel more comfortable with it. And I really do hate to say this because D. Wade has been one of my favorite players for years.
Don't say it.
But I'm going to say it anyway because it's just what I feel. I just feel like I'm watching the end of this guy's career. Like these chronic knee issues have me seriously concerned about his future going forward. Sure. I mean, he's going to be a free agent. If you're Miami, seeing how you have to manage him so carefully, how much money is he really worth to you at this point? But looking at this season, Indiana has gotten so much better, and I was on that train of people who said, hey, it looks like in the playoffs, it looks like LeBron plays a little bit better without D. Wade in the lineup. They need him to play as a starter against that team.
Does it matter if he starts or if he finishes? See, I think starting lineups in the NBA are completely overrated. I mean, it's like, so what if he comes off the bench? Is he there in crunch time to give them the buckets or the stops, as the case may be, that they need?
But then you also have to have the concern that if it becomes a really physical series against Indiana, which it probably will be, how will they be able to manage him in that situation? I mean, I know right now they're being so judicious and careful because it's like they're preparing for that kind of deep postseason run, but I just think with the firepower.
If I'm understanding you right, off the bench or in the starting lineup, you don't think it really matters. We're just seeing a declining player.
I think so because of the injury. Not when he's healthy, and we've seen him in pockets when he looks like he's feeling good. D. Wade has been D. Wade, so it's not a matter of his skills falling off. I just don't know if his knees are really cooperating.
You think maybe he's coming to terms with that, and that's why he's willing to swallow his pride and say, I'll come off the bench?
I think so, because he's probably thinking that this is a good way to manage his minutes. But like you said, starting or coming off the bench, if he still has to play like 28, 30 minutes or even more than that, then it's still going to take the same wear and tear on his body. All
right, well, let's give props to Eric Spoelstra, who doesn't get a lot of credit, by the way.
No, he gets too little credit. But
his ability to, or willingness to reinvent. Like, they seem to be going away from those small lineups and saying, hey, maybe we got some with Oden at center or Birdman or what have you.
Hey. The numbers, we're about to be, I think we're about to be video bombed. Show bomb, yes.
This is great.
All right, will D. Wade coming off the bench work? You say yes, I say no. The numbers also say no, because it means Ray Allen will be starting. His 12.7 player efficiency rating is the lowest of his career and ranks 67th among guards who have played at least 750 minutes this season.
I didn't think about that. Hey, you got a mic on you? You got a mic on you? Tell them to put a mic on you right fast. Meanwhile, the number of the news for the Pro Bowl is 31. Sunday's annual NFL All-Star Game was the first in 31 years to be decided by a single point. In case you missed it, Team Rice beat Team Sanders 22-21 thanks to Alex Smith's 20-yard touchdown pass to DeMarco Murray, followed by Mike Tolbert's two-point conversion. Nick Foles was the offensive MVP. Derrick Johnson the defensive MVP. Now, NFLPA President Dominique Foxworth told USA Today that Roger Goodell was considering canceling the game, but the players still love it. You got your mic on, Kenny Mayne? You can't just be talking from off the set. Get the mic. You getting the mic?
Get rid of the
Well, just come here so people don't think we're crazy. Just come over here. Come on.
He really is here.
Kenny Mayne's coming and join the show.
What up, Kenny Mayne?
You guys said to come out here.
Yeah, we did.
You never texted me to remind me, but I remembered.
Okay, good.
Great job by you. Sorry, got a little
This is for all
distracted.
my homies in Compton.
Somebody get him a chair.
We'll get him.
Anyone?
You guys keep going.
Anyway, you get your own chair.
You'll come back in a
Thank
second.
you. Thank you. Get on it. All right. Should the NFL just cancel the Pro Bowl? We'll start with Jamel while Kenny gets. Kenny thinks they should cancel it. Do you?
I do think they should cancel. Let me tell you how bad the Pro Bowl was. The Pro Bowl was so bad, I actually was forced to watch the Grammys. And it was that bad. And I would only go back and forth. I would only go back and forth because I thought maybe we might talk about it on this show. It was boring. You cannot fake
It's
football.
always boring. Football is so dangerous. Why do you want to put them out there? Why do you want to put them out there and maybe get hurt again? I've talked to guys who played in the game that probably wouldn't want to admit it. It's half speed for halftime, 3/4, third quarter. If it's close, you play hard. If it's not close, you go back to half speed. It's a stupid game.
Thank you, Kenny Mayne.
It's a stupid game. First of all, last week, Jamel, you sat up there and gave me grief for saying I didn't care if the Super Bowl was played on a Sunday or not based on the weather. I'm sitting up here saying, how can you sit here and be that un-American? You too, Kenny Mayne. And for the #1 sport in America to not have an all-star game.
I got a better way.
You do. You got a solution.
Michael, tell you.
Okay. In the meantime, I'll just say this. I know it's not a perfect all-star game. You can't play fake half-speed football as you talked about, but it needs the Pro Bowl is a necessary evil.
No, it's not necessary.
And the rating, I haven't seen the ratings. Dave, can you get me I haven't seen the ratings, but I'm sure
the ratings are gonna
I'm sure they're through the roof.
They're going to be through the roof because people
love
can't.
football.
No, because they love it so much that they would accept bad football over no
Here's the
football
problem:
at
is the
all.
timing. Move it back to after the Super Bowl. When people are saying no, football's going away, they'll be more apt to accept the Pro Bowl
Move
for
it
what
back
it is.
to
Kenny.
never. Don't have it. Here's what you do. Celebrate the great players. Have them go to Hawaii. Have the fans win contests go to Hawaii. And have it be like a PPK. Have thrown through tires. Have long distance.
So like a skills competition.
Skills competition. Let the players and the fans intermingle and make it a celebration of the game. But to play a half-speed game is silly. It's a dangerous game as it is.
I can't.
Why are we playing one more? We shouldn't have exhibition season either. We should have one exhibition game and have controlled scrimmages and get more work
Now
done.
you just calling for flat-out anarchy, Kenny, huh?
I know what I jaywalked in Seattle the other day. Nobody jaywalks in Seattle. It's so weird. Marijuana's legal, but you can't jaywalk. So people stand and watch no cars and go, should I go? And now that I've been back east some, New York City and whatnot, I'm leading the parade. Yeah, it's anarchy.
I love it. This guy is a rebel. But
this is already my favorite show of the week.
When are we going to start?
My other issue is that all the things that we love about football are taken out in the Pro Bowl. Passion, hard hits, because we know guys aren't really trying to get injured.
Look at the rushing.
I saw Alfred Morris broke like 72 tackles on one run because nobody was really
I'm not saying I'm enjoying it. I was at the Celtics game last night. I didn't see a second of it. If I were at home, I wouldn't have watched it either. What I'm simply saying is I haven't heard, with all due respect, I have not heard a more viable solution. I haven't heard anybody come up with something I like better than fake football.
Remember when Aaron Rodgers, was that 2 years ago? He was like, what are we doing, guys? Are we playing? He was so mad because guys weren't putting out the effort that he expected. If we're going to be pros, let's be pros.
Did you see T.J. Ward up in Josh Gordon? They're teammates.
I was watching the Grammys.
See?
I refuse to watch the Pro Bowl. It's so terrible, I won't watch it.
Thank you.
All right.
And admit it.
Since you watch this show every day.
Nor did I watch the Celtics. I'm sorry.
I was there for KG.
What the hell just happened? Is that a translogic tube? What's going on? I've seen the show, yeah, but I didn't know that happened.
Well, clearly you're not paying attention.
You know what?
The numbers
so into the words, I'm not looking at all this.
Good.
Here, we'll let you even hold
watch it at 9 o'clock West Coast time.
This is what they use at hospitals to send information back and forth. Seriously. Translogic tube, it's called.
So here's the answer. We asked, should the NFL cancel a Pro Bowl? The numbers say no, Kenny. More people watched the 2013 Pro Bowl than Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals between the Heat and the Pacers last season.
You know what? Y'all need to reevaluate your lives.
If they put it after the Super Bowl, no complaints.
And Pharrell's hat was more entertaining than the whole Pro Bowl.
Just because people watch something doesn't mean it's good.
Don't we know it?
You know the show Hurt Locker, the movie Hurt Locker? Yeah. Academy Award winner? It got outperformed by, I'm forgetting the name, but some awful kids movie that everybody watched that was terrible. So let's say 100 million people watch that and only 10 million watch Hurt Locker. Which one's better?
You know what? We're gonna go to break.
Now you know what? Commercial free.
All right, talking about keeping some strange bedfellows. Kobe, 50 Cent, and Meryl Streep were all at yesterday's Knicks-Lakers game. Kobe, for obvious reasons. But 50 Cent and Meryl Streep sat next to one another courtside. This, by the way, sounds like the beginning of a great story. So 50, Kobe, and Meryl Streep walk into a bar. Kenny Mayne, what do you think about those three?
I call them 50. Yeah, $50. It's all right. You know what? They probably met. Maybe they know each other. Maybe there's a background. Maybe there's more to it.
Those three walking down the street, who do you think most people know?
Kobe.
Because he's tall.
Meryl can play anything, though. She could probably play 50, right? She does all those accents.
And what did the Academy Award for? Meanwhile, speaking of awards, the number of the news for Peyton Manning is 12, the likely MVP. With a win Sunday over Seattle, Peyton will become the 12th starting QB to win multiple Super Bowls, but the first to do so with 2 teams. He'll probably be awarded his unprecedented 5th MVP this week. He's been selected to 13 Pro Bowls, most for any QB. And as our pal Woody Page pointed out in the Denver Post this weekend, Peyton holds or shares 55 regular season and postseason awards. If they aren't already, as you guys know, many will argue that Peyton is the GOAT if the Broncos win. But here's my thing. Kenny, you're the guest. Let me start with you. Should Peyton's ranking among the all-time greats ride on this game?
Not at all. We just had that conversation in the hallway with some others, and I said, yeah, he may have a great game and win, and he claims him as this worldly being, otherworldly being, but he's done what he's done. He can't play all the positions. He's just playing his, and I'm sure he'll have a good game. They respect him, and it was interesting. We talked to Richard Sherman. He's like, I ain't said one bad word about him. The guy's Peyton Manning. Why would I? So he only says it when he means it. That's the thing about Richard. But no, Peyton's a great quarterback. Tom Brady's a great quarterback, and he didn't win the last game. I thought they were going to win. I had New England. I thought they were going to go on the road. They had a roll going. I was wrong about that.
Well, as I pointed out to all the people out there who think rings are the end-all and be-all when it comes to debates about quarterbacks, Tom Brady is a superior quarterback since 2005 than he was from 01 to 04. And yet he doesn't have any rings to show for
God,
it.
who do you play with this year?
So what does
high
that
school
tell
receivers?
you?
Like, who are these guys?
What does that tell you? It's a team accomplishment.
Yeah, I thought the coaching job Bill Belichick did this year was superior to even not getting to the Super Bowl was one of his most amazing seasons ever. To have what happened with Hernandez and losing Gronkowski and bringing up these other guys and still playing with that same intensity. Yeah. Then they bring in a running back, who's this guy? And he just ran for 4 touchdowns.
Right, but the team wasn't good enough.
No.
So you think it should ride on one game?
No, it doesn't ride on it in the sense like no matter what happens Sunday, nobody's going to be like, oh, Peyton Manning, he's a worthless quarterback. He's not any good. But he does have an opportunity, I think, to move up. And I know that sounds...
So it does ride on it then.
Well, but when you suggest ride on it, you're suggesting that it's a zero-sum proposition.
No, I'm saying,
that.
We gave out, to much controversy, excuse me for a second, we gave just to catch you up on this, we gave our top 5 quarterback list last week. So you're telling me...
Of all time?
Of all time. So, Jemele,
Joe Montana?
Right. So you're saying that if Peyton Manning wins a second Super Bowl, if his team wins a second Super Bowl, you're going to move him. He wasn't even in your top 5. Well, you're going to move him in there?
No, yeah, I would. I would move him in there because that's the thing about a ranking. Whenever we do rankings or lists, we act like they don't change. Well, as careers change, as circumstances change, as history changes, it changes things. All I'm saying is this, Kenny, is that I think for so long, there was a lot of scrutiny on his postseason failures. A lot of us,
you really blinged it up to them.
A lot of us, myself included, think that maybe he could have gotten another one already. So if he gets another one, that would have mean he's been to 3. He has 2. He has all the statistical evidence. This is just, to me, the icing on the cake that would allow a lot of people to feel more comfortable about moving it into that top 3.
I think those of us who cover it and put out these shows and type, we are the ones who get all caught up in it. The legacy. It's like, players. I think the players all respect Peyton, win or lose, whatever happens. He could have a terrible game, and he's still going to be one of the all-time greats.
That's exactly right. This is why going into my all-time rankings, I try not to put too much weight on championships or one-loss records because I still have Marino in my top 5. Never got a ring. He can't do anything about that now. All I'm saying, Jemele, I may be inclined. I'm saying this now. I may be inclined if he were to beat the Seahawks. Sorry, Kenny. I may be inclined to reevaluate where I rank Peyton Manning, but I still would have a hard time putting ahead of Montana, Elway, and I had Unitas last week because of his impact on the game. Peyton. How I view Peyton is not going to change if his resume looks better. If that makes sense.
Look, for emotional reasons, I explained why I would never take Joe Montana from the top slot. But as sports changes, this is evolution. Like those guys that are number 1 on any list, NBA, NFL. At some point, it's going to change. Guess what? At some point, somebody will come along and be better than Michael Jordan.
Well, the list
blasphemy.
The list doesn't take into account where you play. Let's say Joe Montana had been stuck in Cleveland or Buffalo. Was he going to be Joe Montana that we all love because he was under Bill? Let's say Randall Cunningham had an offensive coordinator instead of Buddy Ryan running a play called RC Special. They had no play. Dead serious. Yeah. Hike the ball to Randall and hope something happens, and sometimes it did.
Sure.
So put a guy in the right place. And or a girl in a women's sport, and it's going to be. Why are we laughing? No, I'm trying to be all inclusive.
I got you.
Women's basketball, you play at Tennessee or UConn, or you play whatever, Wyoming State, if there is one. Maybe you're not going to be under the same system and thrive in the same way you would as Joe Montana did with Jerry Rice, John Taylor, Roger Craig, a great defense, Bill Walsh, you know. I'm
going to just go out on a limb and say I think Kenny could thrive in any system.
Definitely.
You can just show up.
I'm playing on Wednesday in the amputees versus the ex-NFL players. Money is going to Wounded Warriors. I'm excited about that game. Dave Stevens, one of our guys here, is an amputee, a double amputee, and he gets out there and gets after. He's amazing. He plays just on his hands, and he doesn't have legs. He wears prosthetics otherwise, but goes out there and just rules the field. So I'm so excited. I have a brace because I have a ruined ankle, so I qualified to be on the amputee team.
Interesting.
So here was the question. That's good stuff. Should Peyton's ranking among the greats ride on this game? The numbers say yes. Among quarterbacks with only one Super Bowl victory, Peyton does not rank first in passer rating, completion percentage, yards, touchdowns, and wins. But he would rank first in all of these categories among those with 2 Super Bowl wins. Favre.
That's
what it is.
That hurt my head, all that.
I guess,
you know what? You know Jim Bouton, who wrote Ball 4, and I'm glad you didn't take it personally. The ex-Yankee, Seattle pilot, wrote a book, the tell-all book, back in the 60s. He had a line that said, tell your statistics to shut up. And players are good players, and the respect they already have, players aren't in the middle of the game going, he's 23 for 40.
I can't let you get away with this. This is numbers never lie.
I know, but it's okay to have a larger discussion about the numbers, like the basis for it.
Kenny, you ain't got to go.
I got more to say.
But you got to get out of here. We are joined now by a friend of the show and Jamel's fellow Michigan State Spartan, 12-year NFL wideout, Plaxico Burress. So since you saw that record coming, who you got in the Super Bowl? Let's just sit you on a roll. Who you got winning this game?
I'm going to see how the Seahawks all the way. 28-25.
Jeez.
Last time you called the Super Bowl with the score, I believe, or you were pretty close, was Super Bowl 42 against the Patriots. Do you see any similarities, Plax, between this matchup and the matchup that you faced back in 2007 when you had what was the greatest offense in NFL history?
Not really. You know, it was a Bill Belichick coach football team. We knew what we were going up against because we had just played them Week 16 in Giant Stadium, and we pretty much knew that, you know, if we played a physical football game, we could play with those guys. We just couldn't turn the football over. But, I mean, make no mistake about it, Peyton Manning is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But I just believe that the Seattle Seahawks have a better defense. I believe that those defensive backs can get up on the line of scrimmage and thaw some of the timing issues that the Denver Broncos want to do. And I think it's going to be interesting to see what the weather is going to play in this game.
Let's talk about one of those Seattle DBs in particular. The number in the news for Richard Sherman is 20. He has a league-high 20 picks since he entered the league in 2011. In fact, since the 1970 merger, only 2 players have more picks in their first 3 seasons. Now, contrary to what he had to say about Michael Crabtree, Sherman has been complimentary to Broncos wideouts, calling Demaryius Thomas top 5 even. So, I'll ask you this. Do you think the Broncos can shut up Sherman in the Super Bowl?
I don't think they're going to be able to shut him up, but I also think that Richard Sherman is not he's not a dummy either. He's not going to go out and call out Demaryius Thomas going into the Super Bowl, knowing that he's playing against Demaryius Thomas and Peyton Manning. I mean, it's not going to be an easy matchup, but I do feel that, you know, he can contain him enough so that Denver Broncos won't make a lot of big plays down the football field. And I just say get up on the line of scrimmage, play bump and run coverage, and take away that quick screen of the line of scrimmage that he's broke about 6 or 7 touchdowns clearly for 60 or 70 yards. But, you know, I just think that the Seattle Seahawks have a better team, man, defensively when it comes down to getting off the field. And, you know, just get the ball to Marshawn Lynch, run the ball 30, 35 times and bring it home.
Now, Demaryius Thomas has already said he's really looking forward to testing himself against Richard Sherman.
Right.
Now, you have faced many of the elite corners in the league. If you were Demaryius Thomas, how much would it mean for you to go out there and just basically show out on Richard Sherman?
I mean, this is what it's going to come down to. It's going to be a mano-a-mano matchup, and whoever is the better player on that day is going to win this football game. And I believe that Richard Sherman can cover him, because if you take away, you know, Wes, if you can take away Demaryius Thomas with one-on-one, that means you can double coverage, you know, Julius Thomas or Wes Welker when those guys get in the slot. So it's going to be a big-time matchup as far as, you know, what kind of scheme that the Seattle Seahawks want to play schematically. But if Sherman can go out and contain this guy, you know, they can do some different things on defense to slow the Denver Broncos down. And I know Peyton Manning is really counting on Demaryius Thomas to go out and have some success one-on-one, because if he can go out and make some of those plays in the passing game, it just opens the Denver Broncos offense wide open.
Well, and a lot of that is going to come down to, if Demaryius Thomas versus Sherman, whether or not Thomas lines up on the right side. I believe Sherman has played like 98% of his time at left cornerback this year.
Right.
But that said, you mentioned earlier, Sherman's no dummy in terms of who he's going to call out and Peyton Manning and those guys.
Right.
But that said, Richard Sherman has been targeted 58 times this year, and yet he has 8 interceptions. In other words, he's intercepted 13.8% of the targets thrown his way. Is Peyton Manning going to be foolish enough, and I say that with all due respect, to test Richard Sherman? Or if you were Peyton, would you take advantage of those other weapons that you have and stay away from Sherman?
I think Peyton Manning is going to make the best decision of, you know, where the football should go. If he thinks that he has, you know, Demaryius Thomas on a route where Richard Sherman may be playing a certain leverage point, you know, he's going to make those throws, but he's not going to make those throws in the tough coverage. You know, I think that he has enough respect for Richard Sherman. You know, I mean, and he's not a bad player, but, you know, they have to be smart about it. I believe that Peyton Manning is going to make all the right throws, but at the same time, you do have to test them. You know, if Richard Sherman goes out and make some big plays early, then you're going to see Peyton Manning go away from him, I believe.
Now, give us some kind of inside look at that matchup between a top cornerback and a top wide receiver. Plax, when you played, who would you say was the toughest corner you probably played?
I mean, if you're a wide receiver and you're a cornerback, you love these kind of games, man. It's the biggest game you're going to play in your life. You know, it's going to be one-on-one all over the field. And, you know, I had a similar matchup in the NFC Championship game with Al Harris. Mm-hmm. You know, he was regarded as the best bumper run, you know, corner in the league. You know, I knew that he was going to guard me one-on-one the whole game. He knew it also. And it was just going to come down to who made the plays at the right time. And, you know, I had just watched so much film on the guy. I had broke him down and dissected him. I just knew every move that he was going to make at 5 yards, 10 yards, and we just kind of took advantage of it. And it's going to be that kind of match. I mean, it's a Super Bowl. You really don't have to do no talking on the football field, because there's no game after this. You know, whoever wins this game is going to be the world champion. I think that's going to speak enough for itself.
All right, last thing before we let you go. Sherman has also said that he has no regrets about the things that he said. He's not worried about it causing a distraction.
Right.
You were pretty outspoken again going into that first Patriots Super Bowl. Right. How much does that fire your team up? And can Sherman, contrary to what most people think, can his talking this week actually motivate his team versus take away from it?
I mean, definitely. I mean, they're a very confident football team. You look at how well they've been playing just in all phases of the game. They're young. They're confident, probably a little cocky at times, and that's what you need. I mean, those guys are in the Super Bowl, and, you know, all those guys are really young. You look at Russell Wilson, he's in his second year, you know, blossoming into one of the elite quarterbacks in the league. I mean, they're confident. They're going to talk a little trash, but at the same time, you know, it's a Super Bowl. They're playing against Peyton Manning, and, you know, I can't wait to see, you know, how they're going to attack Seattle defensively, and how Seattle's going to attack the Denver Broncos. So it's just going to be a good game. I'm just worried about the weather. If it's snowing and sleeting and raining, I think it's going to play a bigger favor into Seattle. All
right, as we get to the number, Prophet Plaxico says 28-25 Seattle. Right. Last time you were on this show, you predicted a record for Calvin Johnson, which helped my fantasy team greatly.
All right, since we settled things with numbers on this show, here we go. Will Richard Sherman get humbled in the Super Bowl? The numbers say no, because it's unlikely the ball will come Sherman's way. He was the least targeted corner in the NFL this season. Sherman was thrown at just once every 9.5 pass plays this season, according to Pro Football Focus.
That's why he talks so much. Keep stuff occupied.
He won't even look at his direction.
Appreciate it, man.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Have fun.
Okay, the number in the news for Carmelo Anthony is, you guessed it, 62. Melo dropped a career high and Knicks record 62 points against the Bobcats on Friday night. More great numbers. Melo had 57 offensive touches, attempted 35 shots, and shot 61% from the field. Now, we've all had this conversation about Kevin Durant being the best scorer in the game, but Melo was definitely on his Roy Jones.
Y'all must have forgot.
Tell him. So to you, Michael Smith, I ask, is Carmelo still a top 5 player?
Yep. He just proved it the other night.
Proved it. Okay.
You know what? He's a top 5 guy. And this is hard. We've been having top 5 lists for the last week. We've been on one with this. This one might have given me the most trouble of all of them. I was agonizing.
Every list gives you the most trouble.
Because I try to get it right as best I can.
Because you assume there is a right. There is no right. There's only your opinion. But go ahead.
That's true. All right. Listen, man, this guy, here's an underrated number about him. He's number 1 in the league in minutes at 39.2 per game, all right? Second in scoring, giving you 9 rebounds a game. 8th in player efficiency rating. And then if you want to go even more advanced, he's got 11.4 estimated wins added, right up there with Kevin Love. 4th in value added behind KD, LeBron, and Love. I mean, I can't.
A value to a 17-win team?
I knew you were going to go there.
Go ahead.
I knew you were going to go there. I cannot. No, that's not fair. That's not fair. Because if you're saying he's not a top 5 player, and I'm sure, and there are certainly a lot of players worthy of being in this conversation, but you're not going to sit up here and say that's Carmelo's fault that they're such a bad franchise.
No.
That dysfunction is not his fault. No. And yet he is playing maybe the best basketball of his career in a losing situation. I'm not going to penalize him for that. I'm watching a guy who, if the object of the game is to put the ball in the basket, with apologies to Kevin Durant, nobody does it better than Carmelo Anthony.
You think he's a better scorer than Kevin Durant?
He's a different kind of scorer. He's a better one-on-one player, in my opinion. He's a better. No, I mean, I'm not gonna say somebody's a better scorer than the guy that's averaging 31 points a game than Kevin Durant.
Oh, so.
But if I gotta get, if I had a preference for somebody's offensive game, I might take Melo's. I like his repertoire.
You like his game better than KD's.
And that's no shade to KD.
I got you.
Obviously, he gets it done, but I just prefer Melo's offensive game. That's just my preference. It's a mature game. You know what I mean?
Offense has never clearly been Carmelo's problem. And I love the way he's played this season because he has gotten better as a rebounder. I mean, he's always a good rebounder, but I think he looks to get his teammates a little bit more involved. They've certainly let him down on that end. J.R. Smith having a terrible season. Ray Felton, he hasn't had a good overall season either, and of course the injuries. But when I look at the top 5 player list,
it's hard.
It's difficult, but I have him just outside the top 5. I think it's a representation not of Carmelo's shortcomings, but what everyone else has done to get to, I guess, his level, since he used to kind of be a top 5 player. Here's my list.
He used to be a top 5 player?
Yeah, he used to be one. Here's my top 5 list. KD, yes, I have him over to LeBron, having a better season.
We had that argument
already. Paul George, who's taking a significant steps. LaMarcus Aldridge, who, no disrespect to Kevin Love, I think this is the best power forward in the game.
Debatable, but
and CP3, the point guard.
Okay. We have similar names on our list. I don't have any problems with yours. Yours is very much in the present. I get that. I'm doing a little longer term view, if you will, but obviously we're talking about right now, top 5 players right now. Despite all of what Kevin Durant has done, I still say LeBron James remains the best player on the planet. Followed closely by Kevin Durant, CP3, the point guard, leading the league in assists per game. He goes 3 for me. Kevin Love. Let's talk about him for a second. And much like Carmelo, I'm not going to penalize him because his team isn't that good. You could say, well, a great player would elevate his team. Listen. 25 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists. The last guy to do that was named Kevin Garnett back in 03-04. And before that, those were numbers reserved for Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Billy Cunningham, and Wilt Chamberlain. That's the kind of work Kevin Love is doing. So for me, he's the 4th best player in the league this year, followed by Carmelo Anthony. I struggle with Steph Curry. Obviously, Paul George, maybe the best two-way wing player in the game. Anthony Davis will be in that list very, very soon, the way he's playing.
He had a great weekend.
And Steph Curry's got more 20-point, 10 assist games than anybody this year, the 3rd most 30-point games. It's a crowded group of young stars. But I got to say, I mean, Carmelo Anthony, the other night, you hit it on the head. That was his y'all must have forgot. That was his, nowadays everybody want to talk like they got something to say. Nothing comes out when you move your lips because y'all must have forgot about Carmelo.
Right.
I'm sorry. That guy fills it up.
Well, I see the immediate difference with our list. Like, you don't penalize a player if he's on a bad team. I just give more credit to the ones who can ball in our own good teams, like LaMarcus Aldridge.
Paul George.
Honestly, if he wasn't in Portland, I think you'd be hearing his name regularly in the MVP discussion. And some of it depends on where they finish.
All right. Well, we're finished with this. That was hard, man. I lose sleep over these lists.
I don't know why. Look, don't worry about being right.
It's not about who's in it, it's who's out of it.
Go with your gut.
I did go. My gut told me Carmelo Anthony.
Your gut changed like 7 times, but that's okay.
Why you got to put my business in this thing?
It's Carmelo.
There's a lot of good players who could be number 5 or 4.
Carmelo Anthony, a top 5 player. You say yes, I say no.
Come on.
The numbers say no too. Wait, how about this? Extra shade from the numbers. The numbers say no, and he never has been. Dang. Carmelo has never ranked in the top 5 in win shares in a season. He's currently 11th in the NBA behind DeAndre Jordan. Your current top 5 in win shares are Durant, LeBron, Kevin Love, Paul George, and Steph Curry.
Curry. I was this close to putting Steph Curry in there. Is it too late for me to change my list? I guess so. It's time for some numbers you need to know. The number you need to know for Tiger Woods is 79. He shot a 79 on Saturday to miss the cut secondary cut, I believe it's called, in the Farmers Insurance Open, tied for the second worst round of his PGA career. Here we go again. Are you worried about Tiger?
I am worried about Tiger.
Is he not going to catch Jack?
Mostly a no on that now. I used to be a strong yes. Then I was a, hell, he should. Now I'm a, ooh, I don't know.
Complete overreaction to this story. You know why? I want to get this number. I think he's missed 9 cuts in his career. Isn't that what we just said? Maybe it might have been. I forgot. Phil Mickelson's missed like 30-something, if I'm not mistaken. It's like Tiger missing a cut is such big news because he rarely misses a cut. And this doesn't even really count because, like I said, it's a secondary cut.
Well, and he's got another 20 years to play. All right, the number for Paul Pierce and Kevin Garnett is 12 because that's how many points they scored to combine in their return to Boston on Sunday. And you were there, Mike. So the video tribute, it got a lot of attention. How moving was it?
Man, let me tell you something. I've been to family reunions where people don't get that much love. There were fans they showed on the big screen bawling. It was so emotional, I even wanted to cry.
Teared up?
I'm telling you, man, I got a little choked up. I mean, the one for Paul especially, it was, and you could just see the look on both he and KG's faces. Celtics fans are among the best fans in America. I know we say that a lot, but and the organization was really classy the way they did it. It was a bad game to watch, but a great night to be in TD Garden. It was really fantastic for both those guys. Great homecoming. The number you need to know for Earl Thomas, Jamel, is $15 because that's how much his barber charges for a haircut. But it's going to cost him a lot more to bring his barber to the Super Bowl, which is what he plans to do. I wish I had a traveling barber.
Oh, yeah? The one
Troy.
Come on, Travel the Numbers Ever Live. All right, we had this discussion one day off air. All right, it's $15 is what he normally pays for a cut. Mike, how much should Earl Thomas be tipping?
This is not the Super Bowl trip notwithstanding.
Super Bowl trip
shop.
Going to shop.
Appointment or no appointment?
Give me both.
Regardless.
Okay.
If he fading you up using the razor like he should, probably give him $30.
$30.
Probably give him twice as much.
See, when I put that on Twitter before, that you tip your barber, you double tip.
That's what my barber takes care of me.
Right. I